What is going on today, guys? It is Monday, April the 23rd. It is a very sunny, very gorgeous day here at PEI. Now, I know what you're thinking. This was supposed to be the day of the Jukebox Championship match, but unfortunately, due to some scheduling concerns, we had to push that back to next week, so we get both competitors in. So, what was supposed to be next week, the Jukebox playlist of the top 10 Beatles tunes, that is now today. We're going back to the original format that we had with the top 10-esque one, where we each have our own individual lists. And I did a draw earlier this afternoon for guys to get in. And although he was on the reserve list, he wasn't able to get in. He was able to get in there at the last minute. Malcolm Goldie-Lay. Malcolm, how are we doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Just ready to talk about the Beatles.
Yeah, and then a guy who was very persistent about being on the show, and then he was actually the first person that was spun from the wheel. They are the Butcher, Luca, Hopewell, and Madden. How are we doing?
I wasn't that persistent. I was just like, I'll do it if there's space, and then you were like, oh, it's Luca, and it happened. I'm really excited. I was gunning for Floyd, but I think that the Beatles are a timeless band, so. I don't think there's anyone better we could be talking about, except for maybe Pink Floyd.
Yeah, that's definitely a solid debate. So before we get into our list, I want to talk to our panel, and I mean, obviously, like a Beatles is like a huge influence to a lot of people. But I'll start with Malcolm first. What got you into the Beatles, and why did they stay persistent in your music?
When I first sort of encountered them as my parent, I was a young kid and my parents always played them. And at first, I really didn't like them because they were, as I quoted to my parents, old people's band. And then after a while, I started listening to them more and more as I grew up, and they've just stuck with me since.
Yeah, awesome. Luca, what is it about the Beatles that stuck with you?
So, I kind of had an interesting way of getting into the Beatles. I used to do a lot of driving up and down France with my dad to visit my grandparents, and we had a big book of CDs in the car, and one of the CDs was the soundtrack for the Sean Penn movie I Am Sam, and if you know that movie. The soundtrack has got a whole bunch of Beatles covers on them by people like Fiona Apple, Rufus Wainwright, Eddie Vedder, people like that. And that was my first exposure to like a large variety of Beatles songs because there's songs from like all different eras and stuff like that. So I got into it through that because I just listened to that CD so much, and then started to get into the albums, and was sort of like 12, 13 when they were like at their most formative for me. But I think that they're such an essential part of music history of the 1960s, of the British invasion, and such a sort of transitionary band that went through so much evolution that I think sort of kept them being relevant throughout the 60s and massively influential today. They are completely timeless, I think.
Yeah. So for me, like I will not lie, I did not get into these guys until they had a Rock Band game come out. This would have been like grade 8, grade 9. And like when they came out, I was like, all right, like these guys are a pretty big thing. And like I never listened to them growing up because my parents weren't huge Beatle people. So I got into them, and it was like, holy shit, these guys are. For me, it was very versatile. Like they started out with like the indie rock kind of scene, and then they got into obviously the psychedelic stuff, and then they started adding in like horns and violins, and then when they did the rooftop show, they kind of went back to basics. And for me, it was just a great evolution of a band, and they just aged so well. Like a lot of their songs are still being played on the radio today. So just to go over the rules very quickly, we each have our own individual top 10 lists. We're going to be doing like the 3-man weave, similar to how Matt and John do it on their show. So I'm going to be doing my 10 through 8, then it'll be Malcolm's 10 through 8, then Lucas 10 through 8, then it'll be 7 through 5, and then once we do 5, we'll go one apiece. Punts will be in play, and yeah, I think that's it. So to start it off, I will admit this was ungodly hard. Like this is like one of the hardest lists ever. So my number 10 Beatles song is "Good Morning, Good Morning."
Not on my list.
Not on mine.
All right. Yeah. So for me, "Good Morning, Good Morning." It's a bright tune, and it's quick, and it's got a nice pace to it, and it's kind of like controlled chaos. It's what I enjoy. You get like John is leading the song, and you get those nice horns in there. Luca, what are your thoughts on "Good Morning, Good Morning"?
I like Good Morning, Good Morning, and it's kind of it's one of Lennon's songs, and I think one of the things I like so much about it is how contemporary it is and how referential it is. There are references to like BBC sitcoms. There are references to Beach Boys songs. It really is very emblematic of something that the Beatles would do a lot of the time, which is like reference contemporary popular culture. I think that what I tried to do with my list is not to repeat albums very much. There's one exception. But I tried to sort of keep it to, as much as possible, one song per album. So there's obviously a song on Sgt. Pepper that I have much higher on the list, but I like Good Morning, Good Morning a lot. Yeah. It's a very, very good song.
Yeah. Malcolm, anything to add?
I'm not gonna lie, this is one that I'm not familiar with. Like I'd probably only go about a third beat of the Beatles songs from all of the ones on my iPod, so this is one that I don't know.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's go right quickly then to number 9. Here Comes the Sun.
Also not what I have. You got it, Malcolm?
I've got it at number 5.
Number 5. So that is a punt. All right, so that's a punt. Number 8 then is Come Together.
Honorable mentions, man.
Yeah. I would these 10 through 8, like there are about 6 songs that I could easily like interchange. Like I had 3 here that were originally 10, 9, 8, and then they all made it to honorable mention once these certain 3 songs came in. But Malcolm, was Come Together on yours?
It was on my on-voice as well.
Okay, so the reason why I have Come Together on here is that the lyric, like the not the lyrics, but like the vocal from John, it's kind of it's held back in a way, and then in the chorus you have him and Paul with like a just kind of a great duo harmony, and it's just a very very simplistic kind of approach. And then with Ringo, his drum beat, like when all he's doing is literally just sitting there with the bass drum and the floor tom and dum 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 dum, and it gets people bopping. Your guys' thoughts on Come Together?
You want to take the floor, Malcolm?
This is one that it's been flipping on and off the list. Figure just ended up off, but it's one that I just enjoy. Is like the opening tune, like "Here Comes Old Flat Top Head Creeping Up Slowly," is like it's probably one of the greatest opening parts to any song that I like. So I really got into the song when the musical Across the Universe came out in 2007, I believe. And it's just one that's stuck with me ever since.
Yeah, I really like the Joe Cocker version from Across the Universe. I think that's a really, really cool cover. But the thing that sort of always sticks out to me about this one is the low end work, the bass and the drum work, how simple and effective it is at the same time. Like I think it's some of Paul and Ringo's most reserved and effective bass and drum work, and I think it's really indicative of how they kind of evolved as musicians and songwriters with their instruments. I think it's a really, really impressive song. Again, there's a song on Abbey Road that I just had to put on there. And it ain't this one.
No. Caleb Hansen in the chat, he's saying that Come Together has the greatest drum line of all time.
It's an incredible drum line.
Yeah, it isn't, and it isn't just a song. It's history. Although Aerosmith was able to ruin Come Together, like one of the worst covers in my opinion is Aerosmith's version of Come Together. All right, so that covers my bottom three. Malcolm, what is your 10?
So my team I've got is Tristan Shout.
Did
Not
not
on
make
my
my
list.
list.
Was close.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that at first when I first heard it, I did not know it was a Beatles song until much later. But it's one that my friend always sung at karaoke, and it just stuck for me ever since. And and it was one of those ones that when I first watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it's like, this song actually fits that tune, and it's just one of those especially one that they put into movies that stick with you, especially if it fits that scene from movies as well. So it's just one of those ones which the lyrics and music really go together well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, and like one of the reasons why I didn't have Twist Shut on my list is because it is actually a cover.
It is a cover, but there are a lot of Beatles covers on the first few records that have become synonymous with the Beatles.
Yeah, but yeah, like it's a great song for the time. This great sort of call and answer from John, and then Paul and George. And like one of the simplest guitar solos ever. Like you're just doing doubles pretty well the entire way. Luca, anything to add?
I think Twist and Shout was a lot of fun. The reason that I didn't have it on the list was that I like it, I think, because I associate it with the Ferris Bueller film, the parade scene. I think that I have it very connected to that scene. I think it's a very good performance of an R&B rock and roll standard. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's as musically impressive or expansive as some of the stuff later in their career, and also even some of the earlier stuff. Like I don't have anything from Please Please Me on my list. Just because I think that even you can see one or two albums later, so much of a sort of musical expansion, I think. But Twist and Shout is a really fun and really catchy, enjoyable song.
Yeah. All right, Malcolm, so what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Help.
Punt.
Not on my list, but cool.
That is a punt.
Okay, my number 8 I've got is Yellow Submarine.
Did not make my list.
Not on my list. My favorite Ringo, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those ones which, and this is probably going to be a theme from a lot of my list. It's a lot of the ones that have a significant connection with my life. Because Yellow Submarine was the first one I actually listened to and really liked. Because it was one that my school always made us sing all the time at school assemblies. It is just when there's and they don't like it if you say, "Oh, I don't like the song, can we not sing it?" So it was one of those ones I kept on singing. Then every time I sang it, it just grew on me. And it's like,
yeah.
And
oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
and it was just one of those ones which made me want to actually watch the animated movie that they did of it with it as well.
Yeah, definitely probably their most sing-alongy songs. You could definitely tell on the album version that they're having a lot of fun doing it. Just how Paul is echoing in the second verse, like Sky Blue, Sea of Green, and Yellow Submarine.
All of them.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one that they definitely had fun with, and it's definitely the sillier ones, and definitely very entertaining for the casual crowd. Luca, thoughts on Yellow Submarine?
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah,
it's it's gonna be no surprise to people that Ringo is not my favorite of the songwriters in the band. But I think Yellow Submarine is a lot of fun. I think it's very sing-songy. The Beatles did this thing where they did at the same time they did really psychedelic and really out there weirdness, and also just very kooky, very strange weirdness, like a lot of Ringo songs like Octopus's Garden and stuff like that, and Maxwell's Silver Hammer, which are just cartoony in a way that I really like. I think it conjures a really impressive visual imagery. I don't find the melody to be particularly interesting. Like it's very, it's a little bit heavy-handed, I think, at times. But I like the song a lot.
Yeah. All right. So now to Luca, your number 10.
Okay, so my number 10 is from With the Beatles, and it's All My
Lovin'. Did not make my list. Did not make my list.
Did not make mine either.
No, it's very close.
So here's the thing. I'm going to have a lot of late career album stuff kind of higher up the list, but I wanted to have the sort of With the Beatles era represented. And I think that All My Loving is the best of like the very traditional Tin Pan Alley type pop songs that they do. I love the vocal melody from Paul. The lyrics are very simple and naive, and they feel really emblematic of like the 1960s pop love songs. I love how far forward the vocals are in the mix. I think it really brings like a character to the song. I love the harmonies in the chorus and the lyrical harmonies in the second verse. And I think that this track, more than probably any other track of the early career, really pushed sort of the idea of Paul McCartney as a songwriter forward. And what I think that sort of pushes this above sort of other early 1960s Beatles songs like, say, Hold Me Tight or Love Me Do, is the rhythm guitar. Sean's rhythm triplets on this song, are really quite impressive and sort of really catchy. And I just overall think the melody and the mix and all of that is really lovely. And I like George's very short, very sort of efficient guitar solo. I think this really put George Harrison forward as like a really efficient player. Like he knew how to make the most out of sort of a little bit of space. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of this song, like you mentioned the triplets and just kind of that upbeat, like the upbeat kind of quick tempo. There's a song that's kind of similar to that I think is just a touch better. But it was one that was like very close to getting on the list. Yeah, Malcolm, anything to add?
Yeah, not really. This is just one of those ones which is nice to listen to. I just didn't put it on because just all my other ones was really a lot higher, better for me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Luca, your number 9.
My number 9 is we were talking about this very briefly. Norwegian Wood. This is my favorite track off of Rubber Soul. I love it so much. It's got such a really. Is it on either of your lists?
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's got like a really beautiful influence from like the folk rock movement of the early 1960s. Is beginning to bring in that like slightly psychedelic hazy influence. But also this is, I think, one of the first Beatles songs that begins to use the sitar, and obviously George Harrison's sitar playing became really prominent later on in other songs that we will be talking about, I hope. And I think this is sort of the first combination of that, and I think it's more on the folky side here. It doesn't tend to use a lot of the like Carnatic and traditional Indian scales, but it's very much there. And I think that one of the best things this song does is it's based on a real story, essentially, of an affair that John Lennon had with a woman. But it creates a very dreamlike state. Like it uses the 6/8 time signature really well. It uses the sort of the chord progression really well, and it uses sort of the lilting and soft vocal melody really well. It's my favorite song on Rubber Soul. I just think it's really, really wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, Malcolm, anything to add for Norwegian Wood?
Yeah. This is a really beautiful song. Just really fun to listen to. It's just one that didn't really resonate for me as much as the others.
Yeah. Yeah, like whenever somebody says Norwegian Wood, like I instantly hear that bouncing melody, the da da da, or no, it's I'm out of tune. But yeah, like for me, why it didn't make my list is it's just one that I don't listen to enough. But I'm sure if it was one that was like consistently like in a playlist that it would probably crack my 10. But yeah, like just signed, like probably like 15 or so for lists. So now Luca, you're number 8.
My number 8 is my choice from Help. I've Just Seen a Face.
Nope.
No dice. I just think this one is a ton of fun. I like the kind of country and western influence style. I like the finger picking guitar in the intro. I like the melodies and the harmonies and the vocals. I really like the kind of, how to put it, the lyrical pace of the song. I like the cascading rhyming scheme. It's like I've just seen a face, I can't forget the time or place where we just met. It really sort of drags you through the song, and creates like a really tangible sort of sense of excitement. I think it's probably the best of the Beatles songs at portraying that young puppy love they were so known for in their early days. I just think it's very danceable. It's almost kind of hoedown like. And
Okay.
considering it's,
I'm really sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I thought we were live, but I guess something happened to the stream. Like it says that we're live here on Hangouts, but there was an error on YouTube side, so I think we're gonna have to restart.
sure.
Yeah. All right. So to do this.